Okay, so then we come to the value argument. So again, this is optional. That's why you see it in italic. If you don't specify it, we assume you want the balance of the account as of that year-end period. And we're going to roll backwards if necessary to get to that. If it's a future period, we'll roll forward. So we'll look at the future period activity. Assuming there are numbers posted out there, we'll add those to the balance to roll forward to that. So, but again, if that's assuming that we don't specify a value, we're asking for the balance. That's going to return the balance as of whatever year and period we asked for. Other possible values you can see here, period activity. So that would be your per period. Year to date is just the sum of period 1 through whatever period we specified. And the same thing for debit. You'll see that then there's that set of values repeated again for cash. And that makes it really easy if someone is on, say, both accrual and cash basis, where they're tracking both sets of values. It makes it really easy to build a financial statement where this last part, the cash part, gets tacked on based on whether they check the box or not. So you can convert between cash and accrual very, very easily just by tacking on cash at the end of that value. And then budget works the same way.
Excuse me, Michael?
Yes.
For example, on the one that the value says period activity, the field on the GL account is actually either current period activity or, obviously a internal ID. So is there a list of these fields, the values that these fields can be while you're using the software?
Yes. So if you, let me just jump back to that and show you where that's located.
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah. So the question was, is there a list of the values for the value argument? And the answer is yes. If you click on the function selector button and you click on TSGLAmount, scroll down, and you'll see each one of those arguments that I've been going over, discussed here. And when I get down to amount type, or what I just called value.
Those are options.
Yeah, those are all your options.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, and that's, if you're doing a lot of work with this function, that would probably be a good thing to just have printed out or stored somewhere so it's easy access. Because once I click insert, what was that value again? I'd have to think about how it's spelled. So that would be a good thing to just have handy when you're building financial statements. It would be nice if we could control Excel's window. This is the Excel window right here, and have a drop-down list here, but we can't do that. So those values are key. And if you just specify a value that's not recognized, it'll tell you that. It'll give you a result that says, no such value.
And maybe it'll be in the next Quick Aim version.
Right. It probably will. All right.
Mike, there's a question that in the database. So I've got a fiscal year end of October, okay, and I've say 2 prefixes. So I've gone through a year, right? It maybe say June to the next June with a fiscal year end of October. Maybe I'm in September, and now I go through a fiscal year end change.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? How does the system deal with that, or what does it see, and can it navigate that?
Could you elaborate again on what you mean by fiscal year end change?
Well, I didn't ask the question, so it looked like I asked the question. My mouth was moving, but it was somebody else controlling me.
Okay.
I'm assuming that I've not actually done it, but I'm assuming that there's a mechanism by which I can have Sage or what have you give me a year-end change. And I don't know if it retroactively, by doing so, recalculates all the amounts that in the cumulative totals, it would be interesting how it handles year-ends in that situation.
Right.
You got detail represented there, but assuming that's possible, then how does the system? And I would assume the system can only just read the balances. We're not looking at transactions.
Right. We don't look at transactions. It's only going to look at what's in the master file. And so, for example, take for example the current period activity field that's on the account record. It's going to view that as being the period as identified in your fiscal settings. So when your fiscal setting says your current period ending date is 5/31/2013, it therefore knows that current period activity represents May, in essence, May of 2013. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. Basically, we're simply looking at the fiscal settings and using that to tell us what period a given entity is in, and then that tells us how to interpret the bucket totals that are on each account record, and then we navigate it from there. Although I suspect maybe the question could also have had to do with how we navigate fiscal year-end boundaries. So if you roll back to a period in a prior fiscal year, we do handle that properly in terms of, like if it's an income statement account, we recognize that income statement accounts reset to zero at the end of the year. So it handles that transition properly. Or even if you're going forward, again, handle that properly as well. And that's actually something I had mentioned before as a plus to the fact that we can roll forward is sometimes there are customers I know who sort of get stuck for a while at year end. They haven't closed the fiscal year because they're waiting on things and they're not comfortable closing the fiscal year and reclosing it later. They leave it closed. Well, they leave it open. So then the question is, okay, so my year is still stuck at 12/31, and now I'm in February. I'd sure like to run a financial statement for January, but I can't, right? Well, with this you could, because you're just rolling forward one period. You're asking for period one of the next year, and it navigates that correctly. So that I'm not sure if that had also to do with that question or not, but I thought I'd throw that in there.